Purpose. Why do you exist as a business? Now that's a bit of a question, isn't it? Why do you exist as a business? I always lead with that question. I led with it in the book, I lead with it in the resets, I lead with it in the retreats. Because when you really think about that, you're probably not clear on the answer. And that's why we have to do the work. Because if we don't do the depth there, to the levels that we do the depth there, you are probably building the wrong business. And a lot of people are building the wrong business, they just don't know it. So it actually empowers people at a whole different level. Before we get to strategy, strategy is easy, providing you've got the purpose to align it to. It's so easy to get the strategy right and actually build the wrong business. So we have to go on purpose. So one of the big discoveries I've had over my 2 decades in business is that there was multiple elements to purpose. Now this took time. This took the business failures. This isn't something I took out of a textbook. This was the hard stuff I learned along the way. And this was learned through the fuck-ups I had in business as well, right? This was earned at the dark days. Because when I built my own businesses, and out of the 20 businesses I built, 7 didn't go so good, right? So out of those, why didn't they go so good? You know, I'm a clever guy-ish. I'm quite a simple Welshman, but I'm not stupid. Some people may say otherwise. But why is it that I failed so catastrophically and so miserably in some of those businesses? Actually, one of those businesses did quite well financially, and yet I was miserable. One of the businesses was okay, and I was bored. What was that all about? They don't teach you that stuff at business school. They don't teach you that stuff in the seminars and the books. It's surely business entrepreneurialism. It's all about driving the passion and everything's magic fairy dust, isn't it? And it wasn't. It was brutal. And that's when I was like, there's got to be something more to this. Now, equally, on my path of advisory, remember, I've advised a lot of people. I've been very blessed. I've advised over 300 boards now, one-to-one. Spoken to thousands of business owners around the world through the various chief executive forums and entrepreneur forums that I've spoken at. So this isn't a coincidence anymore. This has come from 2 decades of research where it was the same things over and over again. How come that person over there who'd built a very financially successful business was very miserable? Bored even, trapped in their own business and couldn't get out of it. And yet this person over here who didn't have a pot to piss in was completely delightfully happy. So money didn't seem to be the factor, although it was a factor. How come this person over here had built the ultimate business and actually had destroyed their relationships and their health along the way? And yet this person over here who had a moderately successful business had actually managed to capture their health and their love along the way too. So lifestyle was important, but where did it fit? Market opportunity. Some people had niched so far there wasn't even a business there anymore. Other people had gone so wide they didn't know who they were talking to anymore. What's that middle ground that is a true market opportunity for entrepreneurs to capitalize? What is this passion thing? Everyone talks about passion. You can read any entrepreneurial book, any autobiography of the greats, and you'll see there's a theme, and it's always passion. But what the fuck does that mean anyway? What is passion? Because it doesn't help. It's like passion. What are you passionate about? I just love food. You know, that's not going to help you in business because people haven't unpacked that word. And so I kept on seeing these threads, and then the 5th thread, which pulled it together, was service and value. It's the only word I've added to the page in a decade. So what are the components of purpose? The components are, I truly believe that any purposeful business, someone who's really got the whole business to be proud of thing, has 5 elements. You must have a passion, but a real depth of passion and a true understanding of what that means as a company and what that means as individuals. Because there's an overall arching passion for an entire company, but every individual in that company will have different passions being brought to the fore. And you've got to understand that. For Generation Y, it's critical that you understand that if you're going to scale anything. Otherwise, they will just leave. You must have service and value come into the world. Now, most people, when you ask the question, is just, what is your service? What are you bringing to the world? Most people will be able to articulate service, because it's kind of what you do. And if you're not doing anything, you don't have a business. But the one word I added, well, I realized people, all the mission statements, and were fluffing around with these mission statements and fluffy statements of service. But when I added the word, I always like to try to get to the nuts of things. When you then said, but what's the value you bring to the marketplace? That's a very different question, and very few people can articulate it. Now that's sales, by the way. If you cannot articulate the value you're bringing to the marketplace, you're screwed. You're not going to be able to scale anything. But you've got to know, not at sales tactical level, not at some shenanigans level, at purpose level, of why do you exist and what is the value you're bringing to the world? Because when you can answer that at depth, no one can stop you. It's a competitive advantage. So the next piece is market opportunity. Now this was a funny one. What's that doing, delving in at purpose level? Because if there's not a market, it's not a business. This is where a lot of hobby businesses get trapped. So it's all very well, you've got to have a passion and you bring in a wonderful service to the world. It doesn't mean that there's a market there. It doesn't mean you can scale a business from it. This is where there's a number of people who've been preaching niche, or Americans call it niched, or how they pronounce it. But the niche businesses, by the way, I'm a big fan of a niche business niched properly. But some people have gone so far, there's no niche left anymore. And there's no market there anymore. Therefore, there's no business. So no matter how you work or no matter what strategies you put in place is irrelevant because there's not a big enough market for you to capitalize upon. So we need to understand the market opportunity. We need to understand your space. And equally, a lot of people have gone too wide. So what is the market opportunity? The whole world and everyone in it. Well, good luck with that because you won't be able to articulate your positioning and your business model will not be defined enough. The fourth piece is money, cash. Let's put cash right in the center of purpose, shall we? Now that's controversial, and I stand up at 110% behind that. And to the point of one of the biggest sectors I serve with this message is the charity sector. Because whoever invented the term non-for-profit should be taken outside and shot, as far as I'm concerned. Because they are businesses like any other, they are enterprises like any other, and they are there to make a profit. Because if you do not make a profit, you don't have a business. And if you don't make a profit, you can't serve more people. And that's where it's gone wrong. So money is at the core, because if you don't have money, I think Generation Y is driving part of this myth, which is, it's not about the money, it's about the passion. Well, I get that, but you need both. Because if you don't have cash, and you have no clue where it's coming from, you don't have a business, and watch how long that lasts, because it won't last for very long. Now, I'm not sitting here from a capitalistic perspective. I'll give you a quick example of this in a moment, and I'll name Mother Teresa. But you need to understand that money is at the core of purpose, because remember we're talking business. I'm not talking hobbies, I'm not talking ideas, I'm talking businesses. Because if the business cannot generate money and cannot be sustainable in the longer term, you do not have a business. You have a very expensive hobby, which a lot of businesses have, or a lot of people have, sadly. And then the fifth element to wrap this all together is lifestyle. I'm a big believer that business serves life. And if we're building a business which is not serving our lives, we're building the wrong thing. Because here's where the kicker comes in for me, and this is what I discovered. For those who are watching this and you're really successful, perceived successful, and this is, if you really love what you do, and you have an insatiable passion, like I do, and you're adding service and value to the world, and you know the value you can bring to hundreds, thousands, millions of people. And if you're clear on that value you're bringing, that's profound. And you know that there's a massive market for you to do good with that message and that service, that product, whatever you have. And you can make good money out of it to fuel your lifestyle. You will probably destroy yourself in the process, because it's the fifth element that kills most successful entrepreneurs. And we will destroy our relationships and we'll destroy our health along the way, because we think that someday we'll work it all out. Someday the magic fairies will come along and business will be fine, and then I'll get my health back, and then I'll get my relationships back, and then I'll take that time for myself. And I can tell you that day's never coming. And I learned that the hard way. I lost my relationships along the way. I lost my health along the way. I've burnt out 3 times. I'm really stupid. I didn't learn the first 2. I had to burn out 3 to learn this. But I've realized now, and this is why lifestyle has to be at the center of the business. And by the way, Generation Y will crave this. But if we do not get that bit right, we will burn ourselves. Being an entrepreneur is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. It just is, but it doesn't have to be. There's going to be elements of it. We need to understand that life. We need to know how to balance that stress. We need to learn practices on how to manage that, because it's real. And let's not dance around that. It's real. And if we do not have our love in our lives, and we do not have our relationships, we do not have our health, and we do not have a balance to de-stress, we are building a time bomb for ourselves as entrepreneurs. All 5 need to be intact. All 5 elements of purpose need to be intact to be building the right business. But there's a secret here, which I only share on the stages. You know, you've probably guessed I'm not a fluffy guy. Hang on a minute, I'm going in on the why of business and the purpose of business. Each single one of those elements, if you cannot articulate it, if I'm looking you in the eye and asking you to articulate and you can't, it means one of your strategies are missing. And every single element of purpose points me directly to where you're weak strategically. And every single element of purpose points me directly to where you're weak strategically. You show me where you're weak in purpose, I'll show you where you're weak in your strategy. That's the magic of strategy on a page.